So one of the cool things about taking stuff like this apart is that you get an idea how it works. Now, I actually used to be a welder and have worked in manufacturing a little bit, so I can tell how they put this door together, and it's fun to think about because when this thing arrived at its assembly point, it likely wasn't the same factory where they actually put the Bronco 2s together, but I don't know that for sure. The way they make these doors is the skin is two pieces to start with, and a big machine comes down and basically stamps the whole thing out. So you have one stamp that produces the inside of the door and probably does all of these little holes at the same time, given how smooth that they all are. And then you have another stamper that makes the outside of the door. And then there's going to be a third machine somewhere in the process, and what it does is it takes the outside stamp and the inside stamp, and maybe they've already done some of the internals assembly at this point. Maybe they haven't, I'm not sure. I would imagine that a lot of the internals, or at least as much as they possibly can, get bolted onto the skins. And then what happens is a machine comes and puts the two halves together and then folds the outside stamped piece around the inside stamped piece, and it creates this seam that runs around the entire perimeter of the door. And that's what holds these doors together. And then maybe they add some glue, and it looks like they've got some little tiny welds here to help stabilize it. But the message you have to get from this is that once this door comes together, it's not coming apart. If you want to separate the outside and the inside, you're getting a grinding wheel or a plasma torch and you're going to town on this door, and by the time you're done, it's not going to be usable anymore. Which is kind of a bummer, because for me to understand how this stuff works, I like to be able to see all of the little internals moving and doing their thing. And your view is blocked in so many places, but these holes, I have to imagine, are here for maintenance purposes. They're here so that a worker can come in and do stuff after the door is put together. So I just have to figure out how you work on the insides of these doors. Like, are there special tools, or are there different ideas? But there's not a terrible amount to them. You've got a lever connected to a crank here, basically like a winch. And as you turn this winch, you can see the arm move inside the door. And the arm is actually allowed to slide inside this track so that as it follows its radius, it doesn't bind up or do anything weird. But 40 years of entropy have obviously changed the game a little bit. The handle right here actuates this lever that is supposed to move the inside of the door, but you guys saw earlier when we were taking the door apart, there's a bunch of little pieces that have fallen out. And let's see, over here. Okay. So, as near as I can tell, at the ends of all these little metal bits, like this rod in here, there are these plastic fittings. And 40 years, close to it, of being stuck out in the sun and the rain and the temperature shifts have basically made these fittings brittle. And you can see on the very end of this fitting, you've got a little nub here. There used to be more. There's at least 3 missing nubs. So I'm pretty sure that if you have an old truck and the door has started to go to crap, that these little guys are what's responsible. Now, what's funny about these is they're made of plastic. And plastic used to be really, really hard to work with at home. Like, if you needed a plastic part that wasn't in production, you were basically toast. But today we have 3D printers. So I'm thinking, since this is plastic anyway, that it's possible to recreate these fittings. And the reason why I need to recreate them and not just buy new ones is that I can't find anybody who sells these. I've already been on and done some research and tried to figure this out, and basically you go to Rock Auto, you go to off-road websites, you go to different parts suppliers. You can get pieces, assemblies within the door. Like, I was able to find replacement handles, the latch component here. I can get the arm assembly and the crank. I can get the plastic for the window. I can get new window tracks. I can't get plastic fittings, or at least I can't find anybody who openly advertises that they are included in the kit. So if anybody knows, please let me know in the comments. But these fittings, the only place that I'm going to be able to get them is from another door, and I'm skeptical that getting them from another door is actually going to help, because all of the doors that fit this Bronco are going to be the same age. and they're going to have the same plastic fittings in them. So buying a new door doesn't get you any real guarantee of anything. It just potentially means that you've got a door that hasn't had these break yet. So it seems to me that lacking the ability to get new parts, that the only real option I have is to make new fittings from scratch. And I'm hoping that a 3D printer can solve that problem for me. So, the next question I have to figure out is, can I find a door that I can rip up to learn more about how this works? And can I get access to a 3D printer that I don't currently own to print these fittings? Because buying a whole 3D printer just to print this seems a little unsustainable. See you all soon.